Have you ever felt like people treat you differently as you get older? Maybe some friends have drifted away. Family feels less patient. Strangers don't smile like they used to. Can be lonely, even painful. Especially when you still have so much life, love, and wisdom to share. But here's something to consider. What if it's not just about them? In this video, we'll talk about 7 subtle habits that can unintentionally push people away after 70. They're easy to overlook, but once you notice them, you can shift them. And that can make a big difference in how people respond to you. This isn't about changing who you are, it's about letting the very best of you shine through. So stay with me, because just a few small insights might bring more love, respect, and connection into your life than you ever expected. Let's begin. Habit 1. Living too much in the past. Memories are treasures. They hold the laughter of loved ones, the wisdom of experience, and the quiet beauty of moments we never want to forget. As we grow older, these memories become even more precious, like photographs in the mind that we visit for comfort, meaning, and a sense of identity. But sometimes, without realizing it, we can lean on the past so heavily that it begins to overshadow the present. It happens when every conversation circles back to the good old days, or when the same stories are repeated again and again. You might not notice it. After all, those stories shaped who you are. They mean something, and sharing them feels natural, even comforting. But for the people around you, especially the younger ones, this can begin to feel like a wall instead of a bridge. Imagine a grandchild trying to share something from their world, maybe a new hobby, a relationship, or a struggle. And the response they hear is, "Back in my day, we didn't do things that way." Or, "You kids don't understand how hard life used to be." Though you mean no harm, what they hear is, "Your experience isn't valid." Even friends your own age can grow weary if conversations become too predictable, stuck in the same cycle of old tales. Over time, what once felt like nostalgia can start to feel like distance. So what can you do? Balance is key. Cherish your memories, yes, but don't let them replace the present moment. Tell your stories, but also make space for others to share theirs. Ask, what's something exciting happening in your life right now? Or, what's been bringing you joy lately? And if you catch yourself repeating a story, pause and reflect. Is this moment calling for that memory, or is it time to be curious about someone else's story? Most importantly, stay open to creating new memories. Your life isn't over, far from it. There are still sunsets to see, books to read, jokes to laugh at, and new conversations waiting to bloom. Even the smallest shared experience today can become a precious memory tomorrow. The bottom line? Memories are sacred, but they're meant to enrich your life, not replace it. People want to feel close to who you are now, not just who you were then. When you show interest in the present and invite others into the now, you keep relationships alive. You stay relevant, engaged, and connected, not just in mind but in heart. Habit 2. Expecting too much without giving in return. One of the most common, and often unspoken, sources of tension in relationships is when one person gives far more than they receive. And as we get older, this imbalance can quietly begin to grow, without us even noticing. You may not mean to take others for granted. In fact, it might feel natural to lean a little more on those around you. But over time, if you consistently expect others to meet your needs, without offering appreciation, attention, or care in return, people can begin to feel worn down. This shows up in subtle ways. Maybe you expect your children or grandchildren to call first, visit regularly, or run errands for you. Maybe you turn to a friend for emotional support, but rarely ask how they are doing. Or perhaps you assume younger family members should always drop what they're doing because that's what family is for. Here's the truth. Most people don't mind helping when they feel seen and appreciated. But when support turns into obligation and gratitude is absent, even the most loving heart can grow distant. And when that distance appears, it's easy to feel hurt, even abandoned, without realizing that it may have started with unrealistic expectations. Does this mean you should never ask for help? Of course not. Asking for support is part of being human. And as we age, there are seasons when we need a little more care. But relationships at every age are built on mutual respect. And even now, you still have so much to give. A kind word, a genuine thank you, a thoughtful question like, How are you doing today? These small moments of awareness let people know, you matter to me too. So what can you do? Start by checking in with yourself. Are you giving as well as receiving? Are you showing appreciation as much as you're seeking comfort? Even the simplest gestures, a warm message, remembering a birthday, offering a listening ear, can shift the energy from obligation to connection. The bottom line? People are glad to be there for you when they feel respected, appreciated, and valued. But when they begin to feel like they're just checking a box, they start to step back. A little gratitude goes a long way. And no matter your age, you still have the power to nurture relationships with warmth, grace, and love. If this part spoke to you, comment #2 below. I'd love to know you're still here, still reflecting. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and turn on the bell so you won't miss the next insights. Thank you for being here. You matter. Always. Habit 3. Letting negativity take the lead. One of the quietest, most unnoticed ways we can begin to lose connection with others is by slipping into a habit of chronic negativity. By the time you reach your 70s, you've likely weathered more storms than most: health scares, financial ups and downs, the loss of people you love, perhaps even the disappointment of watching the world shift in ways that feel unfamiliar or unjust. These experiences are real. They shape you and they matter deeply. But here's the hard truth. When every conversation becomes a litany of complaints, frustrations, or criticisms, people, often the ones who love you most, begin to pull away. Not because they don't care, but because it's hard to carry the weight of someone else's constant despair. Think about it for a moment. Do you enjoy being around someone who only sees what's wrong with everything and everyone? Who never smiles at a small joy, never pauses to say, "Wasn't that beautiful?" Chances are probably not. And others feel the same when faced with relentless negativity. This doesn't mean you have to pretend everything is fine when it isn't. Life after 70 isn't always easy, but it is still full of moments that matter. A soft breeze, a good cup of coffee, a kind word from a neighbor. Those things are real too. So what can you do? Start by becoming more aware of your words. If you catch yourself beginning a sentence with a complaint or criticism, take a breath. Ask yourself, is this how I want to connect right now? Try shifting the tone. You don't have to be falsely cheerful, just balanced. Maybe share something you're curious about, something that made you smile recently, or even a compliment. That color looks lovely on you. These small choices change the emotional temperature of a conversation. Remember, people don't avoid you because they've stopped loving you. They step back because they leave your presence feeling heavier than when they came. But just a little shift in self-awareness, just a bit of lightness, gratitude, or warmth, can make all the difference. At this stage in life, your presence can be a blessing, a quiet strength, a source of calm and hope. Let's make sure people walk away from their time with you feeling uplifted, not weighed down. Habit 4. Overstepping boundaries without realizing it. As we grow older, our roles and relationships naturally shift. We may become more dependent on others, or we may feel the need to stay involved in the lives of those we love. But one thing that never changes, no matter your age, is the importance of respecting personal space and boundaries. Unfortunately, one of the most common blind spots in later life is assuming that our needs, our presence, or our opinions should take precedence simply because we've lived longer. It can show up in small, everyday ways. Maybe you expect your children to answer the phone immediately every time you call, and feel hurt or ignored if they don't. Maybe you drop by unannounced, assuming your presence will be welcomed, without thinking they might be in the middle of something important. Or maybe you ask personal questions about relationships, finances, or decisions because you feel entitled to know without considering whether the other person is comfortable sharing. Here's the thing, people don't always say it out loud, but they feel it. When someone senses that their boundaries aren't being honored, they often don't confront it directly. Instead, they quietly withdraw. They may call less, visit less, or stop sharing the details of their life. And if we don't recognize what's happening, we may interpret that distance as rejection or neglect, when in truth, it's simply a quiet effort to create emotional breathing room. This isn't just about physical space either. Emotional boundaries matter just as much. If you often unload your sadness, loneliness, or frustration onto the same person without checking how they are doing, they may begin to pull away, not because they don't care, but because they feel emotionally overwhelmed. Everyone is carrying something. And while it's healthy and necessary to express your feelings, it's also kind to make space for the feelings of others. So what can you do? Be mindful. If someone seems hesitant to engage, gently reflect. Am I giving them space to breathe? Am I respecting their time, energy, and boundaries? Or am I unintentionally pressing in too far? If someone sets a limit, whether it's about how often you visit, how much you share, or what they're willing to talk about, honor it. Don't take it as a personal rejection. Take it as a sign of trust, that they feel safe enough to be honest with you. The bottom line? Strong relationships are built on mutual respect. When people feel their boundaries are honored, they feel safe. They feel seen. And they are far more likely to stay close, open up, and continue including you in their lives. Not out of obligation, but out of love. If this part spoke to you, comment #4 below. I'd love to know you're still here, still reflecting. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and turn on the bell so you won't miss the next insights. Thank you for being here. You matter. Always. Habit 5. Offering advice that wasn't invited. By the time you've lived through 7, 8, or even 9 decades, you've gathered a treasure trove of wisdom. You've seen life in all its colors, triumph and heartache, mistakes and second chances. Naturally, you want to spare others, especially those you love, from the pain of learning the hard way. But here's the challenge. Even the best advice, when uninvited, can feel like criticism. You might see your grown children making financial choices that concern you, or watch your grandchildren navigate relationships, parenting, or careers in ways you believe are flawed or risky. And with love in your heart, you speak up, hoping to help. But to them, it often doesn't feel like love. It feels like judgment. They don't hear your life experience. They hear, you're doing it wrong. And that stings. This dynamic doesn't stop at family. It shows up in friendships too. Gently telling a friend to eat better, go out more, or stop spending so much might come from a place of care, but unless they asked, it can feel intrusive, even shaming. No one wants to feel like they're being constantly corrected. And when conversations begin to feel like lectures, people, sometimes quietly, sometimes suddenly, start pulling away. So what's the better way? Wait to be invited. Let people come to you. If someone values your perspective, they'll ask. And if they don't, it doesn't mean your insight isn't worthy, it just means they're not ready. You can still offer support in a way that honors their autonomy. One simple phrase can change everything. Would you like to hear what helped me when I was in a similar spot? Or, are you open to a suggestion? If they say yes, share with love. If they say no, respect that boundary with grace. It's a small shift, but a powerful one. Because when advice is given with permission, it feels like a gift, not a correction. The bottom line? People don't avoid advice because they don't care what you think. They avoid it because they don't want to feel judged. When your guidance comes with respect and humility, you stop being a source of frustration and become someone whose wisdom is sought out, cherished, and remembered. Habit 6. Resisting change instead of embracing it. One of the most subtle yet powerful ways we begin to lose connection with others as we age is by holding too tightly to the way things used to be. The truth is, the world is always changing. It always has been, and it always will be. But one of the most common traps we can fall into later in life is believing that change itself is the problem, and that if things just went back to how they were, everything would feel right again. And let's be honest, there was a lot to love about the way things were. Values felt clearer. People looked each other in the eye more often. There was less noise, more simplicity. But when we constantly reject the present in favor of the past, conversations with us can begin to feel draining instead of uplifting. You might not even realize it's happening. It might be in the way you brush off something your grandchild is excited about with, "That's nonsense," or how you scoff at new technology as pointless, even though it's the very thing helping others stay connected. Or maybe you grow frustrated with how language, norms, or roles are shifting in society and quietly check out of the conversation. But here's something worth remembering. Change doesn't need our permission. It will come anyway. When every interaction becomes a debate about how things were better back then, younger people begin to hesitate. They stop sharing. They stop inviting. Not because they don't love you, but because being around you no longer feels easy. Take technology, for example. Yes, learning a new phone, app, or way of communicating can be frustrating, even overwhelming. But when we refuse to engage, we make it harder for people to include us. Your grandchildren may prefer texting to phone calls. Your friends might organize gatherings online rather than through landlines. If you don't adapt, you may be left out, not by intention but by default. So what can you do? Stay open. You don't need to become an expert in every new trend or download every app. But when you choose curiosity over criticism, you become someone others enjoy being around. Instead of saying, "I don't get this modern stuff," try, "That's interesting, can you show me how it works?" Instead of, "Everything's worse now," try asking, "What do you enjoy about this?" People don't expect you to love every change, but they do notice and appreciate when you're willing to meet them where they are. Being open keeps your relationships alive, keeps your mind engaged, and perhaps most importantly, it keeps you connected, not just to others, but to the unfolding beauty of the world you still live in. If this part spoke to you, comment #6 below. I'd love to know you're still here, still reflecting. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and turn on the bell so you won't miss the next insights. Thank you for being here. You matter. Always. Habit 7. Forgetting your own worth. As we grow older, many of the roles that once defined us begin to fade. Careers end, children grow up, responsibilities shift. And in the quiet of that transition, something subtle but powerful can happen. We start to forget our own value. It's easy to fall into the belief that we no longer have much to offer, that our time has passed, that it's best to step aside and let others take the lead. But here's the truth. When you stop believing in your own worth, others can start to forget it too. You may have a heart full of wisdom, kindness, and lived experience, but if you begin to withdraw, stop engaging, or shy away from offering your voice, people around you might not see all that you still carry within you. And slowly, without meaning to, they stop turning to you, not because you're not important, but because you stopped showing up fully. This can create emotional distance. Not because they love you less, but because you've gone quiet in ways that made them forget how brightly you once shined. So what can you do? Remember who you are. Your worth isn't measured by how much you do, it's in how much you are. A warm smile, a gentle word, a funny story, a moment of genuine presence. These things matter more than you know. Even now, especially now, you have so much to give. Don't wait for others to remind you of your value. Live in it. Lead with it. Show up in conversations with curiosity, warmth, and confidence in who you still are. The bottom line? When you honor your own worth, others follow your lead. And when you keep sharing your heart, however quietly, you remain a vital, beloved part of the lives around you. Final thoughts. Getting older doesn't mean losing the people you love. But sometimes, without even realizing it, certain habits, born from years of experience, pain, or simply routine, can quietly begin to push others away. The good news is, awareness brings power. Once you recognize these patterns, whether it's chronic negativity, offering advice that wasn't asked for, resisting change, expecting too much without giving back, dwelling too much in the past, crossing personal boundaries, or even forgetting your own worth, you can begin to gently shift them. And those small shifts can lead to big changes in how people experience you. Here's the heart of it all. Relationships thrive on respect, appreciation, and emotional balance. People naturally gravitate toward those who make them feel seen, valued, and heard. No matter your age, you still have the ability to be someone who brings warmth, joy, and comfort to others. So ask yourself, which of these 7 reflections resonated most with you today? Have you ever felt someone drifting away, and now see why that might have happened? I'd really love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Your reflections don't just matter to me, they might help someone else feel less alone. Share one insight you gained and how you plan to use it in your life. Your voice, your story, your wisdom, they still matter. And if you found this video helpful, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue to create meaningful content that informs, uplifts, and honors the richness of life at every age. Thank you for spending this time with me. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Until then, take good care of yourself and keep shining your light.